Hi, welcome to Zgadget Review. Over the weekend, there was an article from Bloomberg talking about the development of Cyberpunk 2077. We had a little more insight into how the development was from the employees who worked on the game. Now, there are some things that kind of make sense on why the game is the way it is today. It is some of the information. There is also things that we could figure out based on the answers they had given and the excuses that they had given on why the game was the way it was. So I'm gonna put some quotes from the article, and thankfully there was a tweet that came out as well from Anam Badowski, who is the studio head of CD Projekt Red, disputing some of the things on the article, but at the same time kind of digging a bigger hole for themselves, as they usually tend to do when they have these apologies. Every time they apologize, they dig a bigger hole. So let's get into the Bloomberg article. Cyberpunk used a first-person view. Making Cyberpunk will require CD Projekt to invest in new technology, new staff, and new techniques they hadn't explored before. Another indication of how CD Projekt stretched things too far was that it tried to develop the engine technology behind Cyberpunk 2077, most of which was brand new, simultaneously with the game, which slowed down production. So the Witcher series was done in third person, so the details in the world and everything don't have to be as perfect as when you do a first person. First person, you have everything right in front of you. So everything has to look great and work great. So it takes more work to do a first person view game than a third person view. To not be prepared with these things before you start working in a game kind of doesn't make any sense. Like if you have to build a new engine, you need to have the new engine ready for people to work on it instead of working on it while people are working on the game, because that's going to create delays. When you're building something new, it's going to fail. It's going to have bugs. It's going to have issues. And that means that every time there's a problem with the system, everything goes down and you just kind of sit there and stare at the wall while they fix the system because there's nothing you can do. So it is kind of very disorganized, I will say, to work on an engine while you're working on a new game. Unless you are doing pre-production, then in that case it doesn't matter. But based on this quote, it seems that the engine was being worked on as actual work was being done on the game, which will also kind of explain all the issues that the game has. Part of fans' disappointment is proportional to the amount of time they spent waiting for the game. Although Cyberpunk was announced in 2012, the company was then still mainly focused on its last title, and full development didn't start until late 2016, employees said. That was when CD Projekt essentially hit the reset button, according to people familiar with the project. Witcher 3 came out in 2015. There's a part of the article that says that Witcher 3 took 240 in-house staff to work on the game, to make that game. And then they needed over 500 internal developers to do Cyberpunk 2077. If you announce a game all the way in 2012, you as a consumer, as a player, you assume that the game is being worked on, because why would you announce a game that it's not even close to coming out? And I know CD Projekt Red is not the only developer that's that. I know there's tons of developers that show a title and they're like coming soon or, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of times those games are like 3-4 years away from actually being completed. Like there's some work actually that has been done on a game like that. There is very rare that there's an announcement from a game that is just a concept and an idea of something that they want to make and that they're probably going to make at some point. It's weird that they announced the game so far out when they were working on The Witcher 3, and The Witcher 3, as I say, came out in 2015. So it makes sense that they would have started actually wholeheartedly working on Cyberpunk in 2016. The timeline makes sense. So it is crazy that this game pretty much was made, the majority of it, in 4 years, right? 4 years. This game was made in pretty much 4 years. And it's crazy, and at the same time it makes sense that all these things were taken out of the game and that the game is having all these issues because it was rushed. Much of CD Projekt's focus, according to several people who worked on Cyberpunk 2077, was on impressing the outside world. A slice of gameplay was showcased at E3 in 2018. CD Projekt Red did a great job at marketing the game, at showing people how amazing, how big this game is going to be, how it's going to play like no other game that you've ever played before, which is why people bought the game, which is why it sold 13 million copies. Fans and journalists were wowed by Cyberpunk 2077 ambition and scale. What they didn't know was that the demo was almost entirely fake. CD Projekt hadn't yet finalized and coded the underlying gameplay systems, which is why so many features such as car ambushes were missing from the final product. Developers said they felt like the demo was a waste of months that should have gone towards making the game. Okay, so this isn't anything new, right? We've known now for a while that usually E3 demos or gameplay demos that they show are for the most part not real. A lot of those gameplay demos, no one's really playing them. It's all something that a group of developers usually is taking away from the main project to work on something to show people at E3. And that is a complaint that has been levied to studios before. It's not the first time that we have heard this, and I don't think it will be the last time we actually hear this either. I think it's kind of a necessary evil where you have to show the game, and because you're working on a game, then a lot of things aren't going to be ready, and you need to make this small little video as polished as you can and as good looking as you can, and to show what your game is going to be. And actually, Badowski has an answer to this point on his tweet. Fans and journalists were wowed by Cyberpunk 2077's ambition and scale. What they didn't know was that the demo was almost entirely fake. It's hard for a trade show game demo not to be a test of vision or vertical slice 2 years before the game ships, but it doesn't mean it's fake. Compare the demo with the game, look at the dum-dum scene or the car chase, or the many other things. What the people reading your article may not know is that games are not made in a linear fashion and start looking like the final product only a few months before launch. If you look at the demo now, it's different, yes, but that's what the work in progress watermark is for. Our final game looks and plays way better than what that demo ever was. No. Okay. So I will agree with you, as I just said before I read the tweet, that yes, it is hard to make this one level that you're showing off exactly the same when the game comes out. And yes, you did a great job at imitating in the first part of the game, because that level that they show is pretty much at the very beginning of the game, that the game looked like this and it played like this. Because you know what? There are no car ambushes. There aren't any. I've played the game all the way through. The only time that I had a car ambush was in that level at the beginning of the game, which is part of your tutorial level. So no, that's BS. That's a lie. Yes, those parts of the game look the same as the E3 demo. Sure, I'll give you that. It doesn't mean that that's actually the game. The game will mean that there's several car ambushes happening as you play the game. Not only once, twice, 3, 4 times, randomly, with no reason to be. That's what an ambush is. That doesn't happen. But that still doesn't change the fact that what you show on the E3 demo isn't a reflection of what the actual game is, because it isn't. And if we get a bit more granular about our release, the vision we presented in this demo evolved into something that got multiple 910s and 1010s on PC from many renowned gaming outlets in the world. As for the old-gen consoles, yes, that is another case, but we've owned up to that and are working super hard to eliminate bugs on PC too. We know that's not a perfect version either. And we are proud of Cyberpunk 27 as a game and artistic vision. This all is not what I call disastrous. Wow. You don't call your release disastrous? Because everybody else does. Everybody else calls this a disastrous launch. And you know what? Let me just... You didn't make the game just for PC. You made it for every single console and PC. You know what that means? That means that the game needs to run on PC and the other consoles, not just PC. You cannot say, hey, we got 10s on PC, so the game is freaking great. No. What? You made a game for a bunch of systems. You, mother effer, decided to make a game for all systems across the board. That means that it has to work on all systems across the board, not just on one. And this is right here why I say that every time these people apologize for something, they keep just digging a grave. The overtime didn't make development of the game any faster. At E3 in June 2019, CD Projekt announced that the game would come out on April 16th, 2020. Fans were elated, but internally, some members of the team could only scratch their heads wondering how they could possibly finish the game by then. One person said they thought the day was a joke. Based on the team's progress, they expected the game to be ready in 2022. That to me is a little exaggerated. 2022, that will be next year. That seems a little far with where the game is today. I think that they could have probably worked on that game this year, 2021, the whole year, and released it in December or April, whenever the hell they were planning on releasing it originally. Just push it a full year back or forward, back, I guess, yeah. That would have helped with the bugs. That would have helped with ironing out the cop system and maybe adding other systems that were supposed to be there that are not there. Adding the stupid ambush that you're talking about, there's multiple of, but there isn't. I don't know, maybe I'm doing something wrong in the game that I haven't been ambushed once, except, like I said, at the beginning of the game. So that to me is a little exaggerated. I would have said 2021 will be a more realistic date. So when they announced that the game had gone gold, obviously everybody was like, hey, finally, the game's going to come out because there have been so many delays. But then when they delayed it again in November, I mean, you gotta think and you gotta know that if they delay the game in November, that's because the game wasn't ready to go out or it had too many bugs to go out to the people. And for some reason, they still decided to do it. And of course, it comes down to money. They just wanted to sell the game and make money. My other thinking is because of the pandemic, I think the way they view it is maybe by Christmas 2021, things were probably going to be different. People are going to be more out and about and be able to work, not necessarily be at home and all these things, which in a way will hamper how many units you might sell, because the more people that are at home, more things that people need to distract themselves, to entertain themselves. So probably the thinking is there's a bigger market to sell the game right now when people are stuck at home. I'm thinking that maybe that was the idea behind the push for December 2020 instead of December 2021. I do wish that CD Projekt would just shut up about this and just continue working on the game, and they will just come out and talk to us when they actually have things to tell us, like when a patch is going to come out or when the DLC stuff is going to come out and things of that nature, versus continue apologizing, because every time they apologize, not only they dig themselves a bigger grave, but they also sound like a-holes. Like this guy saying, oh, we got 10s on PC. I know the game sucks on everything else, but hey, look at this. That sounds like an a-hole, okay? That's just not something that people want to hear you say. You saying that the game isn't a disastrous launch when it actually is a disastrous launch. Now you're probably saying that for legal reasons, but it's also an a-hole statement when everything in front of you is saying what you are giving us is a disaster. We know what you sold us, and what you sold us isn't what you promised us. Hearing this guy talk the way he talks doesn't really inspire that much confidence. Have you had a chance to play Cyberpunk 2077? Have you finished the game? What do you think about the ending of it? Have you gotten more than one ending, or are you trying to get all the different endings that the game has? Let me know in the comment section. That's it for me. Go ahead and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, it really helps the channel. Go ahead and hit that bell so you can be alerted every time we have new videos. And thank you very much for watching.